All right, here we go. So Canvas modules, organize it for yourself and your students. I think a lot of times, even we as teachers learning Canvas get very frustrated, overwhelmed with all the things that Canvas can do. It is just, it's a great tool. But at the same time, our kids oftentimes get overwhelmed and they don't know where to find things. So I really want to encourage you guys going into this next year to think about modules and how to organize it and how to build a really successful module for yourself. Okay. Again, I'm Gina King. I'm the one-to-one instructional coach at Garland High School. I also graduated from Garland High School in 1991, Giga Miles. I love my campus. I love my teachers, but I love you too. So if you have any questions anytime, feel free to shoot me an email. I am in the staff directory. All right. So why should I use modules? Well, in the past, we've struggled with getting kids to turn in their assignments. We've struggled with kids, like they open Canvas and they're like, whoa, what is this? Click, I'm going to close it. Another thing that we also need to think about is we have no idea really what this school year is going to look like. And so we do need to, at minimum, if you are going to be out at all, it's a great module to build it for your classes if you're high school 8A, B-Day, and have like an emergency lesson plan or a module if you're going to be out for a week. Like let's say, heaven forbid you get the flu. So why should you use it? It's to keep you organized. It's to keep the kids organized. It's to take that content that you have, your learning units, your learning objectives, and keep it very structured. And then I like learning paths. So I know Ashley Jackson is presenting right now, so you might want to jot this down to go back and try and find her session on mastery paths. But I kind of call them learning paths. And when I talk about it here in a little while, it's not as in depth as a mastery path, but you'll understand the prerequisites and stuff. So organization is the key here. So how does something like this make you feel? Like for me, as I'm a very visual, tactile learner, and so if I'm going in for the day and my teacher has this on Canvas, I'm going to be like, I see that that's due on September 10th, but when am I supposed to do that? Okay, and so I think this gives a lot of stress for students of, well, what am I supposed to do? What are we doing this week? So thinking about organizing these Canvas modules. The point is students don't want to get lost. They're, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get up and do class today. And so they see something like just a list of assignments on your in a module, and it starts to stress them out. It is a great way to store unit resources. So, I've been telling my teachers, this year, you've already created your courses, or if you're teaching something new, which a lot of us are, your counterparts already have everything in Canvas from last year. So get them to send you whatever they have. It's a good way to use Canvas or modules, kind of like your filing cabinet. Those of us who taught in the 90s, or even now, we have a filing cabinet and we have our unit lessons. Okay, I'm going to pull up this drawer and I have these assignments or ideas or whatever. All of that is already in Canvas for you. So please use it as a way to organize those resources. I really am a big fan of learning plans. And so I'm going to kind of show you, it is a great map for your students of, okay, we are doing a unit on figurative language. or poetry, this is the way it's going to go out. So you're giving them a map and a suggestion of way all the classes are going to go. Use prerequisites to force students to go through your modules in a certain order. Because if they don't master one thing, then you don't really want them moving on. Again, for your administrator, it is a great way to show your lesson plans. You know, I know over the last 2 years, because of COVID, we haven't really been turning in lesson plans. And our administrators like seeing some of that stuff, but it's a great way, give them access. They have admin access to Canvas, but if you could just show them the units and the things that you're doing, I think that's a big plus for T-tests and your evaluations. And I really like the idea of using your modules as a homepage instead of a normal homepage. Now, the beginning of school, I don't see why you can't like do just a normal homepage. But once you get going, you really want to really kind of move on and show them what we're doing. Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple examples of what I've done. I'm going to stop sharing there. Share on a tab. Okay, so in my 2021 GHS staff course, so this is for Garland High School, I do have my homepage, but we also have some really good organized modules, okay? So if I come down here and I have a lesson on differentiation, so let's say this is Unit 1. This is a good way to structure a module. So what we're going to do is every single module we have is going to have some kind of learning path. It's going to tell you what needs to be done. It's going to tell you the order to go through. And you notice if you have a module, and especially if you use prerequisites, teaching your students to use the next button down here at the bottom is really big. So they aren't constantly going back to the modules. So we start on the welcome page, and then we have an explanation of building modules and how to do this. And at the end of this presentation, I included this list of best practices for modules. And again, students should be able to access what you want them to access for your class within 3 clicks. You know, that's the great thing about Canvas. Everything is in Canvas, but you don't want them constantly going back and forward, because I get lost, so I know they're going to get lost. But what you do is you click through the different pages or the way the module is set up. Another thing that I really like is before you start building your modules, you also need to stop and think for a moment about how you want it organized. Do you want it organized by week, by month, by unit? Okay. So really take a moment to stop and work on that design structure, weekly, sequential, units. Create an outline by using empty modules. So once you get started on the module, you know, you're looking at your calendar, and, you know, you do have that for high school, you know, your A-Day classes may be doing something different from your B-Day classes. And how do you want to set that up in the same Canvas course? Add content to modules such as files, pages, and links. And so I'm going to show you how to do that in a moment. Organization, some good ways. And that's what I just showed you. Have a welcome, like, you know, explain to them what they're going to be learning about. To-do lists, an agenda. And remember, every time you do an assignment, it's going to show up on their calendar. Okay. Let's look at how to set up a module. I know a lot of us have built this. Can you set up modules? Let me close this and see your thing. Can you set up modules to only be seen by certain sections? I I don't think so because it's in your Canvas course. So if I go back, you know what? I want to do this. I'm just going to show my entire screen, so I can switch back and forth. Okay, so yeah, so on your modules, it's indicative of your course. So it's in the structure of Canvas, the modules are there, so people can't just pick and choose which ones to put out to their students. Or if that's so, I haven't found a way to do it. I think, you know, another thing I'm going to show you is I use, for my staff, I use emojis. So, you know, you could always do a certain emoji for A day and a certain emoji for B day. So like, I'm going to go back to that differentiation module. And so what we did when we built this module is that you take a self-assessment and determine if you are a snail, if you are a caterpillar, or if you are a butterfly, which is also great if you have ELL students in your class, or if you have SPED students with an IEP where you or, you know, just anybody you want to differentiate for. So have the different groups have different emojis so they know what they're looking for. So if you did your self-assessment and you wanted to do this differentiation course or module, you are placed with the snails. You're going to do all of the sections for snails. So that's just a suggestion. Okay, so setting up a module. Of course, a lot of us have already worked on this, but you're going to go to module, and up here at the top, you're going to put your plus button and you're going to name it icon example. Now, when you're building modules, you can lock them, which is great because you want to work on something and then push it out to your students. So I can add this module and it comes down at the bottom. And remember, if you want to move it because it's like fresh on your mind and you're working on it, you just click over here and you can move that module. You can move it to the very top. And that's what we'll do now. You can move it after something, especially when you're dealing with prerequisites or mastery paths. You want to be really cognizant of where you're placing your module. So I moved it to the top. Okay. So then you're of course going to title it. And then this is just your module items. So it's like your to-do list. What are you going to put in there? And then we all know that if the little green cloud, or we've published it or unpublished it. So right here, if we're going to publish it or unpublish it. And then over here is the plus button. Of course, anytime we have plus, we're adding something. So I could add an assignment. I could add a quiz, a file, a page, discussion header. So let's pretend I want to add a discussion. I'm going to add an exit ticket just to do this. And so now I have my item in my module. And one thing I really, really, really like to do with my modules is I like to use indent. So I can increase the indent and so have it go over. And so the kids are trained then to know if it's indented, then it's an assignment. If it's flush, then it's a resource. So another thing that I really, really can't stress enough when you're doing modules is using text headers. And again, I don't indent my text headers. And a lot of times I will use an emoji. So let me do a notebook. There we are. Okay. Even though when you do an assignment, it's already there, but they like to look at the emojis and they're like, oh yeah, okay, this is Miss King. She's putting all of our assignments together. So then if I go back and I add an assignment, I can just grab one. Yeah, we'll just do this one. I can edit it. And in the title, I can do the same thing. I could put my little notebook there. And I can indent it 2 levels and update. So you can see that it'll all go together. Okay. So that is that little menu. And here, again, I showed you this really early on, so I could move my module up to the top because it's currently what I'm working on. You can move the contents around. You can move the module wherever you want to within your Canvas course. You can, of course, delete it. You can duplicate it. I'd be real careful with that because then if you're working in one module and then you get interrupted, because that's what we always do, and then you could, if you don't rename it or you're distracted, you could be doing your work in the wrong module. You could send this. So if you have a co-teacher, you could say, hey, look, I've worked on this module. Can you add all the assignments, or can you add the notes pages, or can you add, some studio quizzes to it to go along with it? You can send it to someone. You can copy it to another course. So let's say you're a multi-level teacher. So let's say Spanish, but you teach Spanish 2 honors and Spanish 3 regulars, but you're teaching them the same thing, but they're in 2 different courses. So you can always copy those modules. Of course, you can share to Commons and tell your people that you teach with, hey, go out and check out the module that I just put together. Okay. And then, of course, we always have to be very careful in Canvas and getting back in the swing of things to publish or unpublish. Okay. And just because you publish your modules for your students to see doesn't mean that you have to publish the assignments or any of the resources until you're ready to do that. The tools, I just did that, the edit. Let's see, what else did we have? And remember, once you have synced grades, that you're not going to be able to delete it. You might unpublish it. I'm trying to think. Actually, I don't think it's going to let you unpublish it, but you will click this box so you know that it's not going to go into your grade sync again. We have increasing indent. Another great thing that I love about modules is, again, what your kids see. They learn to say, okay, unit 1, we're learning about killer whales. Well, this is an assignment. This is an assignment. This is a document that I need to do. Here's a quiz that I need to do. And it puts the due date of it and how many points it's worth, or whatever grade it is worth. Towards their grade, their GPA for your class. Okay. So some tips on making modules. Like I said before, we're all kind of visual learners, and especially coming out of COVID, we have to remember that our kids have, been looking at a screen. They're still going to want to see, digital lessons. And so I highly recommend using emojis. They use them all the time with their text, their social media, their responses. So they're used to them, and you just teach them your nomenclature and they'll run with it. It just helps them stay organized and stay on page with you. Use learning plans and resource pages for your modules. Okay, here in a few minutes, I'm going to show you a good example of a learning plan. Use prerequisites. So, they have to go through your module using a certain path. Okay, so if I have this, if I want to put in another assignment down here, let me see. Let's put this here. Okay, so I think when I put it, now I can't remember how to do it. Update. There's a little box that you check that makes it do a prerequisite. And it's usually when you start your module. So let me go back. Okay. When we start building a module, let me know. But again, you'll see it when you start a new module, and it'll tell you, it'll ask you if you want to add a prerequisite. And again, it's been a little while since I've looked at this. I apologize. Oh, and I put the Canvas help sheet on using and building prerequisites. Again, I highly encourage you, if you're really interested about mastery paths, so that means you have a student and they're struggling, it's going to take them down a different path based on their knowledge or acceptance of what you are trying to teach them. So that's really great for differentiation. So really, if you don't know about Mastery Paths, I included the Canvas information on it, but do try and get back to Ashley Jackson's session on Mastery Paths. And again, I'm a big fan of making your modules your homepage. So if I go choose homepage and I do course modules, when they come to my course, especially about after the first grading period, it's just going to take them straight to the modules, because I mean, really, they don't need to see your homepage with all of your information, and they're no longer going to be selecting your Google Meet. So this is kind of a better way to keep organized and keep them on track for what you want them to do. Some best practices, that's what I showed you in that module about, these are just some things to think about as you're organizing your module. Now, what I would like for you to do is write down my website for these presentations, Icon 2021 King Sessions. And then I'm going to also put this in the chat because this is your attendance for today. So here in a few minutes, I will add this to your the chat. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if you guys have any questions or if you want me to go back over anything. Can you show us how to add your emojis? Okay, so there are a couple of different ways to add an emoji. So I'm going to log back into Canvas. Again, somehow I closed it. And so let's say, okay, I have a module. I'm in my test course. I'm going to add something to Pear Deck. I'm going to add a page. Let's just grab a page. We'll grab this A1 landing page. Okay, so there's my page. If I go here and I edit it, or once you create it, on your GISD laptop, you're going to do the Windows button and the period. Okay, that's going to bring up your emoji keyboard. If you are on a MacBook, it is Command, Alt, and the space bar. On a Chromebook, we're going to have to Google that because I don't remember the shortcut to get. It's called the emoji keyboard. So you might just want to Google on whatever device you have how to get the emoji keyboard up there. And all you do is you find which emojis you want, however you want to do your nomenclature. So if this were an assignment, kind of like we did with Google Classroom, it was a good practice to maybe number your assignments for whatever, and then you'll just see it pop up. Okay. What do you hit on a Mac? Oh, hi, Jawan. How are you? On the Mac, let me open my keyboard so I can tell you specifically what it is. It is Control. It's Control, Command, and the space space bar. So Control, Command, and the space bar to get the emoji keyboard to pop up on your MacBook. Sure. Okay, let me put the Mixtape attendance. There you go. Yep, I just did it. I just did it for you guys. Are there any other questions? I know that it can be a little